Alright, you guys, so this video you're watching now, this little short little intro, this is, right now it's November 15th. And then right after this thing cuts, we're going to be going back to November 13th. So right now, this is a little glimpse of the future. I'm letting you know there are 4 videos to this segment. You have, if you're going to watch episode 1, of these my newest updates, there's 4 parts to it. In total, you have about 8 to 9 hours worth of viewing material ahead of you. So I'm saying if you're going to dive into any of this, you need to make sure you start from the beginning and you're not starting from part 2 or part 3 or part 4. If you're clicking on part 2 or part 3 or part 4 and you haven't watched part 1, you need to go all the way to part 1 and start from the beginning and not start later. Otherwise, you're not going to have any idea what I'm talking about. So this is just a little heads up, and I'm going to add this at the beginning of part 1, part 2, and part 3 and part 4 just to let you know you need to go to the beginning. So there you go. Yeah, so there you go. Alright, you guys, good morning. Today is November 14th. It's 10:30 in the morning. It's the following day from the last recording, from where the video ended on the last video. It's just the following morning, and it's 10:30. Okay. I've been up since before sunrise, and like I laid out in the last video, I just follow my morning routine with waking up, taking care of Malaki. He's already went and had his bicycle ride. I took him on a 4-mile bike ride, and then I had to shave. I shaved my neck and took care of my hygiene. So I've pretty much just been having a casual morning, and now I've had to relocate the van a couple times as I've been taking care of my different tasks, and now I've driven to the public library, and I'm sitting in the parking lot. I got here around 8:45, 9 o'clock, and then within 10 minutes of me showing up, 2 county sheriff deputies, 2 county deputies who work for the sheriff department. They're just like 5 spaces down on the other side of some trees, and they've literally been standing there talking, and they're working on their computer. It sounds like, from what I could hear from where I'm at, it sounds like they're planning on something. They're planning on some task that they're going to be carrying out today, but they're pretty much just been taking their sweet time about it, just in the near distance, and I have been patiently waiting for them to kind of clear out. They've been here almost as long as I have, and they haven't gone anywhere. So I'm just starting my video anyways. Again, by the end of this video, you might understand some of the things I'm talking about. I'm not saying their presence has anything to do with me. But it also might be. They might just be lingering around just to maybe mess with my energy and try and distract me, in the context that just me knowing that they're right there is an attempt for them to distract me and take me off course. I don't know if that's true, but it could be. My intuition has been telling me that's what they might be doing. Earlier this morning, at a different location, right around the time I took Malaki for a bike ride, and then I was done. We got the bike ride done. I was parked near one of the city parks, and right around that time that I got done with the bike ride, I get Malaki in the vehicle, and then I needed to go use the bathroom. I needed to go do a number 2, and there's the public bathrooms, right? So I get Malaki in the vehicle, and then I have to walk. It's probably like 150 paces to the bathroom. And just as I'm getting to the bathroom, some guy jumps out of the van, and he's like 5 steps ahead of me, and he goes into the bathroom right in front of me, and he goes into where the toilet is right in front of me, and then he just so it kind of blocks me out, and I really needed to go, but I'm like, okay, you just think of the odds. There's like hardly anybody around, but the very moment I'm going into the bathroom, some guy jumps out of the van. Some other guy that's parked in the parking lot, he jumps out of the van right ahead of me and just goes straight into the toilet. So therefore, I had to wait. So I didn't stand around. I pretty much just walked back to my van. But then when I was walking back to my van, there was another community service officer who had pulled into the parking lot, and he was just sitting there. He'd backed in, so his nose was pointing out. What was he doing? No idea. But there's a community service officer there. Then the weird guy that just cut me off to go to the bathroom, so I had to wait before I could go in there and take care of my business, right? And then eventually I drove straight to the library. Come to the library, and then start shaving. I had to shave. It'd been like 4 or 5 days since I'd shaved, so I took care of that. But before I started doing that, that's when the two county sheriffs rolled up, and they'd just been sitting there for this entire duration that I've been here. So just part of me is just saying, just gotta do it anyways, man. Don't let them, if I'm not saying they are, and I'm not saying they aren't, but if they are, I'm not letting their presence distract me, deter me, intimidate me, whatever it may be, if that's the case. But they might not be here for any reason, any reason other than just looking for two parking spots where the two deputies could just talk and plan out their day, whatever they're doing today. They're just planning it out. That's fine. That's no biggie. But at the same time, if they're literally just hanging around and lingering just because they know who I am and somebody told them to just hang out near me because they know what I'm doing, I don't know. I'm not accusing them, but I'm this is me being aware and observant of my surroundings and the things that are happening as soon as I wake up from the day and my day begins until I go to sleep. I'm paying attention to every single oddity or thing that kind of just seems out of place as I'm going about my routine. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. And considering it's only 10:30 in the morning, these are the first few oddities that I've spotted. Okay, so with that said, I'm going to be continuing forward from where I left off on the last cut. But before I get started with that, I want to, I got to make my prayer again. Heavenly Father, my guardian angels and the angels, I just ask you to allow me to deliver the rest of the message that I'm trying to communicate, and to deliver this message as clearly as possible to where anybody who's listening can understand the message and the meaning of what I'm trying to paint. Like painting a picture, laying out the pieces to a puzzle. I'm just asking that I can have whatever guidance to help me deliver the information that everybody needs to hear, so that they can really understand not only my situation, but also to empower them and help them with their own circumstances. And that's pretty much my intentions for the remainder of this video. So in Father's name, Jesus Christ's name, Holy Spirit, amen. So there's that, right? Just gotta stay consistent with that. So yeah, for you as a viewer, I'm going to assume that you've watched the last episode. So this is going to be part 2. I'm going to try and just have part 2, but I don't know if it will be a part 3. But if there's a part 3, I'll let you know. But so far in my mind, there's going to be a part 2 or part 1 and part 2, and each one's probably going to. First one's going to be a little over 2 hours. The second one might be around the same length. But I'm doing what I can to not try to deviate and just talk about random stuff. Okay, so with where we left off on the last cut, I was letting you know that I was leaving Moab and I was continuing south down to Valley of the Gods, which is right on the Utah-Arizona state border. And one of the big reasons that I left Moab was because the energy, my intuition, my gut feeling was telling me that I needed to move on. All these things that had happened in Moab, there's a lot of bad energy, and this energy was telling me I needed to get out of there for whatever reason. I don't know. I have no reason well, if there's some more plots and schemes coming down the road, and I needed to get out of there for my own safety. I don't know. Was it dark forces just telling me to get out of there because they didn't like me in the area, and it was just bad energy that I was feeling because they were just all upset that I was there? I don't know, but something was telling me to leave. Okay, but one thing to really keep in mind as I was leaving, as far as my financial status, I was by the time I left Page, I had pretty much spent, I had spent all of my cash, and I only had, I think, maybe like $500 left as I was heading in towards Arizona, and so I had established this idea in my mind where I'm at this position in my life where not I have no support, nobody, I have nobody to talk to on my phone, including my own family. Nobody's talking to me on my phone. Nobody's calling me or text messaging me or sending me emails asking me how I'm doing or if they can do anything to help me. So I'm literally just on my own, okay? Meaning I have no prospect or anything to look towards in the sense of, I'm getting into a really financially difficult situation, and I have nobody on my side who's trying to help me in any way that I can visibly see. I have nobody to talk to, nobody contributing, nothing, despite all of my effort and time that I've exerted through YouTube trying to articulate and share my story to let you guys know how I've ended up in my position to begin with. How all these things that have happened, I've been trying to tell you in chronological order how everything has evolved to where I'm at now in November 2024. That's my goal. So just so you guys know exactly how things have transpired to make me the way that I am now. As you see me, why am I the way that I am now, and why am I living this lifestyle that I am now? Well, my entire intent for the past 2 years, even it's taken, I'm hitting the 2 year mark of all of my free time and energy that I can muster up has been towards telling this story so that everybody who does know who I am, everybody who I have had previous friendships in the past, and they for whatever reasons, we've never had any form of communication, but anybody out there, they can find my YouTube channel, and if they want to put in the time, because it's a time commitment, as I've said. Anybody that wants to know the truth, it's there, right there for you. It's just a matter of whether you want to put in the time commitment and apply your own critical thinking, your own time and energy towards not only reading the story, but really contemplating and thinking about these things that have happened to me and the significance of it, and how these things have directly affected my life in many different negative ways that has put me down this downhill path that I'm currently on. And it's my entire goal is for just trying to get you guys to really see what's going on, because the stuff that's happening to me, it's also happening to other people around there, and it's also going to happen to a lot more people as time moves forward and this world gets more chaotic and things get more and more out of control. And whoever you are, whatever your circumstances are, all it takes is one accident or one misfortune in your life where everything that you have in your life, all of a sudden that's gone, and the next thing you know, you're on the street living in your vehicle, out of your vehicle, or you're literally sleeping in a tent or in a sleeping bag somewhere in the bushes or in the thickets or on a sidewalk, whatever. Nobody is exempt from this, and me being in my position, it's I'm trying to help everybody understand why. That's by taking this time to speak in front of a camera, I'm trying to help you guys understand where I'm coming from and what my mindset is, and to help you guys really just see that it has nothing to do with mental health issues. It has nothing to do with mental health issues or being delusional or crazy or schizo. It's none of that stuff. The longer you tune into my story and hear me speak, at some point you will see that. If your perception of me right now is that I have mental health issues, I'm just saying at some point, the longer you hang around and just hear me speak and actually give my story a chance to where it's not you judging me and criticizing me and analyzing me. It's you taking the time to just hear the story. Just pretend that I'm not somebody. Pretend this is just pretend. Get rid of me as the image, but just read the story as if it's a real life story, and you don't have me to like get all frustrated at. It's like you're just reading the story, hearing how things have evolved and gone the way it has. And if you really commit your time to it, you could really understand. Anybody could really go down this path. Anybody, if they really, if you just think about everywhere I've been and all the things that have happened to me, I have never been, no matter how difficult the path I've gone down, I've never been discouraged in the context where I've surrendered and stopped pursuing the truth and breaking free from whatever this is. Whatever I've encountered, I've never given up. I've always proceeded forward. And my life is a testimony and an example for anybody who knows me, who knows about me, or might find out about me down the road, where if they commit the time to reading the story and following along and applying their own mind and their own critical thinking skills, at some point you guys will see the big picture, and then you guys can also break free too. Wherever you're at in life, if you feel like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, and you're surrounded by toxic people, negative people, narcissists, demons, Satanists, whatever you want to call anybody in that realm, you will be. I'm trying to psychologically, spiritually break you free, to open your eyes and your mind enough to where you can look around your current situation and you can step back away from all of it and start focusing on getting yourself in spiritual alignment, in the context your spirit is in alignment with what Heavenly Father and the God's kingdom, everybody involved in the higher realms, what they have appointed for you. Everybody's alive in this world. You have your own purpose, your own mission, your own set of tests and trials that you need to face and acknowledge. And at some point, you have to pass your tests in order to proceed forward. And the very unique thing about this is no person in this world has the same test. Everybody has a different test. Everybody has a different assignment and a different purpose. So therefore, that means there's no copying. You can't copy and mimic people. Yeah, you can do things to improve, like how you're operating, to be like a healthy, functioning person and, treating others with kindness. You can look at other people as examples, but overall, we're not comparing and judging and being jealous of each other, because if you understand, we all come from different walks in life. We have all had our own unique experiences where no two persons' experiences are the same. We all have our own mind, our own perception on things. So if you're out there comparing yourself to others and you're saying, oh, I'm doing better than this person, or I'm not doing as good as this person, therefore I'm jealous or envious, and I'm going to copy and steal from them as much as possible, so eventually I can surpass them, and therefore I'm above them, and I can view myself as a superior. That's not how it works. I'm talking about like the meaning of life and stuff. When you really get down to it, everybody has their own specific purpose in life, and you have to find it for yourself. And if you're out there looking at other people, looking for other people to tell you what your purpose is, to tell you how to live your life and how to think and how to act and how to behave, and to tell you what's acceptable and not acceptable and what's not acceptable, you're looking outward. You're not the biggest riddle of life is, in order to leave this realm and pass this test, you don't look outside of yourself for somebody to tell you how to think and what to believe. You have to go within. The only way out is by going within, and that's a riddle for every single person to solve. You have to solve that riddle in order to escape this realm and move on to heaven. The only way to do it is by going within yourself, by praying to God, creating a relationship with Heavenly Father, Jesus Christ, Holy Spirit, by going within and creating a dialogue, a conversation within your own mind, or speaking out loud, where you understand that there is something above you that is listening. You have to create that dialogue, and you have to walk the walk, not just talk. You have to, once you start talking and creating that dialogue and asking confessing and asking for forgiveness and telling Heavenly Father you'll do whatever it takes to earn that mercy and that forgiveness in order to be allowed to leave this realm whenever it is that you die, right? You can't just talk, you have to walk. And it's all part of the thing, and that's what I'm trying to help you guys understand. Okay, and so my life is a testimony showing you what it takes, but not necessarily to such extremes that I have gone. I'm not saying you have to do all the things that I've done. I've done some pretty gnarly things that other people had. That has anybody tried to do some of the things that I've done, they would not survive. They just wouldn't. Some of the things I've done would be so psychologically and emotionally overwhelming where at some point your mind would fucking snap in half and you would either have an emotional breakdown, a psychological breakdown, a spiritual breakdown, and you would do something such as committing suicide because it's just too much for you. Okay, you'd kill yourself. Or whoever's in your direct around you, at the moment you break, you lash out at that person, and you might do something violent. You do something violent to them. So therefore, law enforcement comes in and you get hauled away to prison, jail, or a psychological institution. It really just depends what you did at that exact moment in time, and how severe it was. When you had that breakdown, it depends on what you did, which will determine how long or where you go. Do you just go to jail for 30 days? Or do you go to prison for a year or two? Or do you literally, your mind just snap in half and you can't even function in the context where the only place that, the system is willing to allow you to continue existing is within a state hospital. And once you're there, the doctors or whoever works there, they're just going to be putting different varieties of pills down your throat, and you either do it voluntarily, and then if you refuse, they will literally force that shit down your throat. And which is otherwise they put you into a zombie state. You become a zombie, and at the same time, if they want to use you as an experiment and they want to test out different types of drugs and psychotropic drugs and stuff just to see how it affects you, they can always give you all kinds of different shit, and then they just lock you up in a room and just observe and see how you treat. Some people might just start tripping balls and they just want to observe you. So that's like a real hell. That type of stuff exists, and so by me stepping forward and letting you guys all know this, I'm really trying to make you all aware of the danger out there where you really need to tread carefully with whatever path you're going down. You really need to be thinking about what you're doing and really be listening to your intuition and gut feeling and your conscience. And if your conscience is telling you you're doing something wrong or you should stop what you're doing and go the other direction, or do something else, you should be listening to that, because some of these people who keep pushing these buttons, they're really just they're playing with things that have some severe consequences. And by saying all this, I also understand me telling you all these things, I am also playing a very dangerous game, because a lot of the things I'm sharing you, the bad guys, they occupy a variety of high positions in society in the context of law enforcement, the judicial system, state hospitals, and all that stuff. They have people on the inside of all those places where if they have a target, such as me or somebody out there who's talking about these things that they don't want to be they don't want this stuff being talked about to the general public or to anybody in general, right? So there's all these different organizations and there's players amongst all these, and you really wouldn't know that they're part of it just by looking at them. The only way that you could ever figure out if they're part of it is if you literally catch any one of them red-handed and somehow you can get that person to start naming names, or if you just begin this really deep investigation, you can start figuring out who's all part of it, right? But what I'm saying is, so they have a target. I'll use myself as an example. So they have members within law enforcement. Everywhere they go, there's people that are involved with it. I'm not saying everybody within a local police department is, but you're going to have a few that probably are. They have secretly pledged to this dark organization, this secret society, organization, whatever you want to call it. And so, you know, for the most part, they just operate doing their job as any other officer, or if they work at a hospital, they just do their job as you would expect them to do. But at some point in time, if there's a target out there, and the top players on the chessboard, they don't want this person talking, well, they can give instructions to any of these people and try and set me up. You have actors and people that they put out, you know, in town, and people that just wait around and they watch and follow my behaviors and routines and stuff, and they try and set me up in different ways. Okay, I'm using myself as an example, but this can apply to anybody. Anybody out there, you can become that target, and this is how they operate and what they can be doing to you. Okay, so it's not just me trying to play like I'm not talking about this as a victim. I'm talking about all of this as a survivor. So far, I have survived all of this, and these are the things I've learned. And so I'm just letting you know so that I am empowering you. So once you are done hearing my message and you shut off YouTube and eventually go out there, you'll be a little bit more vigilant and aware of your surroundings. Okay, so that's where I'm heading, right? But what I'm saying is, like, yeah, so they use me as a target. So I'm the target, right? And they put people out there, you know, people dressed up as homeless people. You got people just acting like casual workers, city workers. You got people, all kinds of people, all different disguises, just act kind of like the Truman Show. A bunch of actors going about acting like they're just going about their day. But, you know, they find out what my routine is, and they know where I'm usually at specific times if I'm consistent with my routine. Well, at some point in time, if they can set me up, well, they'll have their appointed law enforcement person, the person on the inside that's taking assignments. Somebody communicates with him and has him just sitting there waiting for an opportunity. So they have an actor out there, and they set me up. And then first responder is right around the corner. Okay, so they intervene, and if I do something wrong and they get me in a trap, well, I'm going to get arrested. So once I get arrested, they haul me to jail, and then they have different players in there. And whatever their plan is, they can eventually lead me directly to a state hospital as they tried before. And then once I'm there, they have doctors and stuff that are also on the inside of that. And so the doctors are taking different orders from people on the outside, and the doctors are following their assignment to the letter. They're giving me different drugs and psychotropics and things just to fuck with my head and try and turn me into a zombie and just, you know, turn my brain into jelly to where I can't even think or function anymore. That's what their assignment's going to be. And then if I fight back, then they'll just torture me even more, right? So there's all these, it gets really dark and really fucked up. And that's what they've been trying to do to me. And I'm also aware that they have been doing this to other people for a long time. There's a lot of people who have gone through the very thing I've described. And there's a lot of people who have lost their lives, and, you know, by being murdered and or being fucked with to such an extreme that they literally commit suicide through whatever method, right? So this is all a real deal thing, okay? And the fact that I'm aware of all of it, a lot of this knowledge and information has come directly from my own firsthand experiences over these past 7-8 years. You know, my own real life things that have happened to me. So this is not just speculation, but these are real things that have happened to me, and I have survived all of it, and I have learned a lot of lessons along the way. Okay, so it's not just me being a conspiracy theorist or delusional. It's like, no, I've walked the walk, man. I'm still alive, and now I'm trying to share the message to empower all of you. But also at the same time, where we're going with this video is, by the end of the video, I'm going to be letting you know about the things that have happened in the past 4 weeks. And I've already gone over all this, but let you know about everything that's happened in the past 4 weeks. Where at the end of the video, I'm going to let you know what my current situation is, where I'm located at specifically. And then if you're on my team, I am asking for your help more than ever, because I'm literally fucking broke. Like, I'm going to go into the financial aspect and explain all of it, but I'm just letting you know right now I'm literally broke, and if you are a friend or supporter, I need you more than ever. Whatever you have that you can afford, I need something, because right now I only weigh probably about 120, 125 pounds right now. I'm 36 years old, I'm almost 6 feet tall, and I weigh 120 to 125 pounds right now. I'm super skinny. This is not a healthy body weight. And I'm also very broke to where I cannot afford to really go out and buy much food. Right now, my daily diet consists of like 2 bananas in the morning, maybe a bowl of cereal, maybe not a bowl of cereal, or maybe a couple Nutri-Grain bars. And then I might not even eat anything until about 5 or 6 p.m. when I have a turkey, cheese, and bread sandwich. That's it. Just, it has like 10 slices of turkey. That's, just thin slices of turkey. It's 10 slices, 2 slices of cheese, and 2 pieces of bread, and that's my dinner. And I've been eating that, and then I might have a little bit of snacks to eat by the time I go to bed. I might have chips. I might have a box of graham crackers where I can eat a few graham crackers. I might have a little bit of candy. But other than that, I don't have enough money to buy myself enough food to where I'm eating enough calories each day to where not only will I be able to maintain my current weight, but to where I can put weight back on. Like I need to be like 155 to 160 pounds at a minimum. That's my healthy weight, is about 160 to 165 pounds. But I'm at 120 to 125 pounds, man. I weigh less now than I did when I graduated high school. When I went my freshman year of college, I weighed 145 pounds. So so think about that. I'm doing everything in my power to survive. Like right now, I have been willing to endure the hardships of all this, and and maintain, and to be firm-footed in my position to where I am unwilling to compromise with these bad guys, these criminals, these sellouts, these people who are doing terrible, wicked, fucked up stuff, not just to me, but everybody else. I have chosen to go down this path, and I am in this position where I will not budge as far as I am calling out to the world. I'm calling out to everybody who's listening, letting everybody know what the world scale issue is. We have a real issue with corrupt people who are in high positions of power, and they are doing very bad things that are affecting everybody else in a very bad way. Everybody is essentially a slave, mentally, spiritually, and physically. In all 3 realms, you're a slave, and your mind isn't even your own, because your mind was hijacked and you've been hypnotized for the majority of your life by being programmed with nothing but lies. You understand? And I'm just wondering, as you as a viewer, is that the life you want to continue having? You want to be a slave for the rest of your life, where your mind is not your own. Your mind, you are just like a robot. You're just a vassal, an energy source, a battery for these parasites who have hijacked this world. All the top positions of, whether it's government, corporations, military, or anything. All the top positions are hijacked by corrupt individuals who are all pledged together, and they don't care about any of us. They don't care about you. They don't care about me. They don't care about any of you guys. All they care about is themselves and this superficial power that they've stolen. And I'm just wondering, is that the life you want to live? You want to be a puppet, a battery, an energy source for these energy vampires, if you've heard the term. They're just harvesting your energy, and they don't care about you. As soon as you, whoever you are, whatever occupation you have, as soon as you stop performing to their standards, or they give you an order that is so messed up that consciously, morally, spiritually, it does not sit right with you, and you refuse to take that order, as soon as you say no, or you say no and you refuse, or you just stop performing to their standards, they will replace you. They will fire you, or they will outright murder you. It just depends on who you are, and if you know too much, they will just make you disappear, or they'll outright fire you, kick you out the door, and send you packing. That you only benefit them so long as you're willing to do exactly what they say when they say it, and you perform to their standards or above. You do exactly what they say or above, and they will like you. But if you perform anything below their minimum standards, you're gone. And I'm just wondering, whoever you are, whether you're in law enforcement, military, anything, do you get that? You understand? And I'm wondering, if you do get that, is that really the side you want to be fighting for and supporting? Do you really want to be a slave your entire life? Where is that? And then you just want to attack the people who are trying to help you, attack anybody who's trying to talk about the truth, and bury them and treat them like they're the bad guy or the evil one, such as me. Just look at my life, all the bad stuff that's happened to me, and all I've been trying to do is help people understand the situation. And then rather than looking at me as the bad guy, you need to understand I'm trying to show you something, and I'm trying to help you see the big picture. And rather than having all of your anger channeled on me, you need to shift your anger onto those who are doing all of this stuff. Those who are doing it, and they're telling you to view me as a bad guy. It's like, no, Brandon's a bad guy. Brandon, look at him, look at him. Don't look this way. Don't look this way. No, keep looking at Brandon. He's everything that you hate right there in one spot. Don't look at all this stuff, right? And I'm trying, you guys, look here, because they don't want you to look here. Just kind of like the Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz, when Dorothy and the lion and the Tin Man and the Scarecrow, they all go into the Green Palace, and they find the wizard, right? And they're just looking at this illusion, this big scary green face yelling at them, and they're in terror. But then Toto, the little dog, runs over, and there's that curtain. And because Toto can see this, these feet underneath the curtain, he pulls back the curtain. Then all of a sudden, Dorothy and all and her crew, they look over and see just this cowardly man pulling all these levers and stuff. And then the game's up. It's kind of like that. I'm saying, stop looking at me as the bad guy and adjust your focus on these people who are telling you all these lies about me. They're telling you all these lies and trying to get you guys to, whoever you are, trying to get you guys to murder me or make me disappear. And that's not how it should be. Otherwise, you guys just be focused on them. Focused on them, because there's a reason why they are trying to use me as the scapegoat. They don't want any of you to wake up, and they don't want you guys to break free from their illusions. They don't want you guys to break free. They don't want your minds to break free. They don't want you to think for yourself and to make your own decisions and to trust yourself more than them. They want you to look at them and trust them in the direction that they're taking you, rather than listening to your inner conscious and your intuition and your gut feeling and listening to your heart. And rather than doing that and trusting yourself and doing what you need to do, whatever direction God is telling you to go, rather than doing that, they want you to be a slave. And exactly what I'm doing is trying to break you free from that illusion. So once you do break free, you might be a friend of mine. We might become friends, and then you stop listening to them and you understand what I'm trying to do, and understand I'm fighting. Not only am I fighting for my life, but I'm fighting for everybody else's lives. I'm on the edge of death, and once I die, if I die, everything's going to change. If you know who I am, you might know what that means, but if you don't know who I am, you're going to think I'm a nutso, but I don't care. But I'm just saying, if I end up dying, no matter how much energy and effort I've tried, if at the end of the road I'm the one who dies, and then all these bad guys walk free, and then they think that they're all high and mighty, that they defeated me, well, I'm just saying, when I die, I'm not actually dying, it's just my avatar, right? But the real me on the inside, my spirit, I'm essentially being set free. My spirit is being set free from my vassal. And then once I'm set free, that's when things really change. That's when things really, really, really change. And then at that point in time, everybody here on earth, nobody is going to have any say-so on what happens. Things are just going to happen, and it's going to happen in accordance to God's will. It's going to happen exactly to God's will. And if you're familiar with the Bible and all that stuff, well, you can go tap into the Bible and look up the rapture. And I'm not saying that's exactly what's going to happen. Nobody knows what's exactly going to happen except Heavenly Father. But I'm saying, should I die, everybody just comes after me instead of going after the real issue that I'm pointing at. You guys, all your anger and all that's just channeled towards me, and you guys can't break your minds free. And for whatever reason, you just attack me instead. Well, Heavenly Father and my guardian angels, all the angels, they're watching all this. And if that's the direction we go, well, should I die? Well, I'm not, my physical will die, but my spirit's free. And then that's when things will start happening on a biblical scale. Whatever that is, I cannot tell you. But that's the warning, okay? So that's the warning. And so that's, I kind of just went deep about things that are kind of just... This is information that's very important to know, but it's not really it's not what I was originally intending to talk about. I didn't even know I was going to be talking about this, but this is what Father wants me to talk about, so I'm doing it. And so I feel like I've delivered that, and I'm going to pause real quick so I can reset the clock and take a drink. All right. So where I was going with this was when I left Moab, I was essentially broke. I wasn't completely broke, but I was out of cash, and then I was I've been trying to, as far as my bank account, I've been trying to have like at least a little bit of a reserve left over in case I have some type of emergency. And I had established that once I was down to like $500, I was gonna have to start panhandling. Because anything can happen, and it'd be strategically smart to have, at a minimum $500 or $1,000, where I just don't even touch that, just in case something happens and I need that money right then and there. But considering I have not been getting any support from anybody, and I don't really have a means of just going and getting a job, considering who I am and where I'm currently at in this giant spiritual battle, is me going and get a part-time job or anything. That's the opposite direction of where God wants me to be going. Getting a part-time job is essentially allowing the bad guys to do whatever they want to me, set me up, get me distracted, take me off course, just get me consumed with work, just hourly work, doing nothing that really matters, where my priority and focus really needs to be maintained on this battle, this fight, this real thing that's happening around the world, where real shit's about to start going down across the United States and across North America and Europe and Asia and all of these countries. Things are about to really start going down. So if I just go, oh, I'm almost out of money, therefore I just go get a part-time job and just start pushing carts, boxing groceries, swinging a hammer, doing landscaping, where my mind is, all my time and energy is being focused on something that doesn't even matter. So God has been telling me, no, Brandon, even though, yes, you can go get any of these jobs and you can work and make your money and get yourself out of this financial situation, that is counterproductive towards this goal and mission and purpose that you're in the process of trying to fulfill and accomplish. So God is, I listen to Heavenly Father, and Heavenly Father tells me, nope, you go this path, not this path. We don't, I've made it clear, I don't serve the devil, and the devil of this realm is the material realm. Well, the devil, he controls the money, he owns the money, and people are slaves to money. People are so obsessed with money, where they put aside everything that's important in life to just go get a job and work 40, 50, 60 hours a week, where all of that time is being allocated doing something that's not necessarily not important, but it's all of your time is being allocated towards things that are not your own, coming to your own spiritual alignment, your own waking up to this world, and you're not serving Heavenly Father's purpose. You're serving the devil's purpose. So long as you were lucky, go, get out of the way. So long as, the devil wants you to be distracted with anything and everything that is not of God. If it's not from God, he wants you distracted with it. He wants you working your job as many hours as you'll put in. He wants you doing that. Or he wants you watching TV and TV shows and movies, or playing video games, or out partying and drinking and doing drugs. Anything that keeps you distracted from what's going on in this world, to get you to stop paying attention to what's going on around you every single day. It just depends which side of the fence you want to play on. For me, I'm on God, Heavenly Father's side, and my path, the very things that I'm doing, I am fighting against the devil himself and his highest ranking disciples and minions and warlocks and witches and all of whoever you want to call them, just the Forsaken, all of them. My fight has been focused on them. My fight has been, whether through direct spiritual attacks and spiritual warfare, or dealing with them in this world, it doesn't matter. That's where my attention and time and energy is allocated towards. And where I'm at now, considering I'm in my van, it's almost been 5 months, and now I'm seriously broke and I'm almost starving. Well, it should all start making sense for you. And then there's all these strange things happening around me that I've been trying to detail out. Okay, so continuing with the story, with all of that information given to you, you guys got to understand that is the perspective of which I am operating from. That's how every single day I'm waking up, this is how I'm operating, with that knowledge in my mind, and way more, obviously way more, but this is all I'm able to give you at the current time. It takes a lot of time to talk about all this stuff. But when I left Moab with, I had like $500, and so But when I did leave, I had a full tank of gas and I had enough food and groceries to last me 5 days or so. So I didn't have to worry about money for the next 5 days. And my goal was to eventually drive. It was about 3.5 hours to Page, Arizona. So I didn't do it all at once. I left Moab because Heavenly Father was telling me, you gotta get out of here. It's time. You gotta get out of Moab. So I drove all the way to Valley of the Gods. You can get on Google Maps or Google Images and type in Valley of the Gods if you want to look up, see what it looks like. I'll probably attach a few pictures that I took with my cell phone when I was there. But when I made it there, I stayed there for the night. It's just this long gravel road that just went out into the desert, and there's just these giant big rocks, kind of like Monument Valley, if you're familiar with that area. But it was all just very open terrain, with exception to the rocks, so you could see a long ways. And when I got there, it was just had this strange feeling, just being there, just a strange feeling that just kind of a little bit of discontent. Something letting me know that it's like, this feeling of being followed. I'm not saying I was, and it has nothing to do with paranoia, but it's just this feeling that I had that I was being followed. Like there's something following me. Not really sure. But I ended up staying the night there, right? I was planning on staying there sleeping there 2 nights, but that next morning, like as soon as I woke up and took care of Malaki, let him go to the bathroom and get him a little bit of his exercise, this energy started coming to me, telling me that it's not okay for me to keep sleeping there one more night, telling me that, I have a lot of heat around me and I need to not be sitting in the open like I am for whatever reason. And it was just telling me I need to clear out from that area and continue on to my next destination. And so I listened to my intuition and I followed that energy, that pull, whatever's telling me just to clear out. I don't know, for all I know, the bad guys might have been nearby and they were plotting, scheming, planning on doing something to me while I was out there because I was completely exposed. They might have been coming up with a plan, and if God knows about it and knows it's a few hours down the road where they're going to do this stuff, or later that evening, anything, it could be at any point in time, throughout the day where they might have been planning on doing something to me. And I just listened to that energy pull telling me to clear out. So I literally left that morning and continued driving. And I drove all the way to Monument Valley. Originally I wanted to stop there and stay there for the night maybe, and then find a cool hike to go do some pictures. But I only stopped off the road to take a few pictures with my nice camera. But more or less, I just drove straight through Monument Valley and didn't even waste time hanging out in the area. I've been there before, so I'm familiar with what it all looks like, and I do have pictures of it from the past. So in the context of photography and taking pictures, it wasn't really a priority for me to spend a few hours or even the day hanging out in Monument Valley. So I essentially drove through Monument Valley, and I drove all the way to Navajo National Monument, which was... it was about 90 miles from Valley of the Gods. And then driving through Monument Valley, it was about a 90-mile drive to Navajo National Monument. And there was, at that location, I had found on Google Maps that there was 2 campgrounds at that location, and it was free camping. And I had been there before years ago, almost right around 10 years ago. I had been through the area once before, so I knew what to expect by going to Navajo National Monument. So I went up there with the plan on staying up there for a few nights and just kind of hanging out and observing and assessing the situation, and then kind of just getting my thoughts organized and planning what my next moves were gonna be once I drove towards Page, Arizona, and started panhandling, right? Because once I got to Page, Arizona, I had to start panhandling. Otherwise, I was going to start burning through my emergency. I only had like $500 left, so I was going to eventually start burning through my reserve, my emergency funds very quickly if I did not start panhandling. So I had enough food and water to last me for like once I left Moab, I had enough food and water and fuel to last me for about 5 days. So I ended up going all the way up to Navajo National Monument, and I stayed the night there for 3 nights. And that's, nothing really weird happened while I was there. Nothing overly weird that worth talking about on the camera. The only strange thing that I noticed in the context of me being there and having potential eyes on me, where there's other people that showed up and started camping and a few spots away. Well, there's one night when the only battery source I have to charge my phone and camera stuff is through my cigarette lighter on the dashboard of my van. So I have one of those AC adapters where I plug it into the cigarette lighter, and then I can plug in my cell phone or whatever. But I had that plugged in for that evening. I had that plugged in for a while. I was charging my batteries, and then I was like, well, I've been charging it for a while, and I don't want my van's battery to die, so I decided to fire up my van, just to recharge my battery. And when I did that, a little bit down the way, there's it's a gravel road where there's more parking or camping spots further down. As soon as I fired up my van, some guy just popped up out of the woods. I was in the trees, but some guy stepped out from where he was camping, and he was just like staring down at me, just staring at me because you could hear the van running. And immediately when I saw that person appear and he was like staring down at me, immediately my intuition, energy coming into me, it was like say these people are bad guys and they're literally just sitting there observing my movements and what I'm doing, and then if I do anything abnormal or anything worth reporting, they just get on their phone and contact somebody, just let them know, oh, Brandon's on the move, or Brandon's doing this. Okay, well, I'm not, So I fired up my van right around sunset. So my intuition immediately, as soon as I saw that person, it was like these people were thinking I was going to be camping there that night, right? But all of a sudden I'm firing up my van, so they might have been concerned, oh, is Brandon firing up his van, and all of a sudden he's going to take off and leave the campground and maybe just take off down the road. So this person was essentially just watching me, and if I did take off down the road and left, as soon as I left, the first thing he probably would have done is went and gone on his phone and either made a phone call or a text message and just told somebody, somebody might have been parked down the road or further down the road or somewhere else, but they're just communicating that I'm rolling out, and then they need to have somebody start following me. That's the intuition that came to me. That's really the only strange thing that happened while I was up there. But more or less, after the 3 days, after my third night sleeping there, that following morning right before sunrise, I fire up my van and I just take off down the road, all the way back down to the highway, and then I reconnect with the highway, and then I drove. It was like 75 miles all the way to Page, Arizona. So Page, Arizona. I have a few pictures and I'll share them. But also at the same time, you can get on the Google Images or something and look up Page, Arizona, and you can see where I was at. If you just want to visualize it in your head as far as where I was, there you go. But I went to Page, and I got there mid-morning, late morning, and I went to Page with the mindset that as soon as I get there, I have to start panhandling. It's the only way I'm going to be able to fill up my gas tank and buy my groceries without draining the last bit of money I have in my bank account. It just has to happen, okay? So when I arrived in Page, that's not the first thing I did when I got there. I believe I had enough fuel and food and water to last me for that day. That day that I got there, I had enough to take care of my needs for that day. But the following day was when I was going to have to go panhandle for the first time in my life and see how I'll do. This is going to be my first time ever doing it. I have no idea what to expect or what might happen. I'm just going to put myself out there and just see. All right, so that's my mindset. So when I first got to Page, I literally spent the first part of the day, I drove around a bit and got my bearings as far as where everything is and the layout of the town, places that I can hang out when different city parks, baseball fields or whatever where there's parking areas and shade, places that I can just hang out. Went and found where the public library was. Went and found where Walmart was. Went and found where the grocery store was. Went and found a bike route I could run Milwaukee. So just getting all my bearings on. So if I'm going to be here for, I was planning on being there in Page for between a week and 2 weeks. That was my plan. I'm going to hang out here for a week to 2 weeks. I'm going to panhandle for a number of times, and whatever money I can get, hopefully I will have enough to get me to my final destination where, you know, ever since I got my van, in my mind, you know, all the way back in July, I didn't really know how long I was going to be in my van. I was hoping by this time that, you know, Jerry Durgan would have been arrested by now, and everybody involved with all the shit, that they would have all been addressed and taken into custody and sent to prison by now, but none of that's happened, right? So I've just been having to survive for this entire duration. But at the same time, I've been aware of this, where even though I thought Jerry was going to get arrested at some point, and I've also known that it might not happen in the time frame that I have in my mind. You know, it might happen at some point, but it's not going to happen within this time frame that I'm expecting. Meaning, there's a good chance I might still be in my van, living in my van full time, once winter time comes around. Okay, so once winter time comes around, then you know, that's when things are just going to really start getting interesting. Okay, I'm going to pause this real quick because I'm getting short on the time. All right, so my original plan, you know, back in July in July and August, when I was living in Jackson Hole, if you watch those, you know, those videos when I was in Wyoming, back then, like, my original plan, I wanted to stay in Wyoming until, I originally wanted to stay there until sometime in October, end of October. I wanted to stay in Jackson Hole and take a lot of wildlife photography during, like, the moose rut. You know, when the moose go into rut and the bull moose start clacking their antlers and stuff. I wanted to photograph and video all that, and I wanted to be around for the elk rut. So once the elk ruts started going in, and then the big, you know, all the wildlife migration, once wintertime started approaching, I wanted to stay there and document and do all that. But if you've watched my videos, you've learned that things went down in Jackson Hole. You know, my last, at the end of August, some shit went down, and I left Jackson Hole and went to Oregon for specific reasons. I've already went over that. I'm not going to repeat all this. But I'm talking about what my original plan was. I was originally planning on staying in Wyoming until about middle to the end of October. But then once winter rolled around, my goal was to eventually travel all the way down to Sedona, Arizona, and pretty much spend the entire winter season, not necessarily in Sedona, but in the Sedona area, where, you know, as far as how far south I'm willing to go. You know, Sedona is just the general area of where I want to be hanging out. I don't necessarily need to go any further south, and I have no intentions of going into California or any of that. But, you know, so for all these months, you know, I'm about 4.5 months in, my final destination, where if over this period of time I didn't know if I was going to survive, I didn't know what was going to happen or any of that, but I have survived, and I've made it all the way, these 4.5 months, and I'm still going, and I've made it to my final destination, where today here, November 14th, I have made it to Sedona, and I'm in the Sedona area. Okay, so that's where I'm at now. In fact, I'm in the Sedona Public Library right now in their parking lot. This is where I'm doing the recording from. And right now, I'm not afraid of revealing my location, because again, I've made it public. I'm challenging the bad guys to just make their move on me, and I'm also told my friends to get ready for them to make their move on me, because both sides are tired of everything being dragged out for so long. You know, everything's getting dragged out, and everybody on both sides just getting sick and tired of it. So I'm just saying, like, if you're the bad guys and you guys are trying to bring me down and undermine me and kill me, well, just send everybody you got. Just send it all in one big wave. You know where I'm at, and you guys can you can try taking care of me, try making me disappear, kill me, whatever. You know, this is your time. Everybody's getting tired of this thing being dragged on, and everybody's looking for a resolution in one way or another, right? And at the same time, I'm letting all my friends and supporters know, yes, I am egging them on and mocking them and challenging them, letting them know that, yeah, come get me if you guys think you can get it. So I'm saying you guys need to be ready, because they're probably going to come. And they've already been making their attempts. They've already tried, and I'm going to be telling you all about this stuff. But I've also been saying, you guys, I'm challenging them, because I know you guys are tired of all of it too. And okay, well, I'm going to try and bring them all in. Just bring them all in. Just keep bringing them all in. And then you guys need to be ready. So as they come in, you just intercept and deal with them as they come in. However you got to do it, just deal with them. And then I have 100% faith in you guys. You will protect me and my dog while this is happening. All I got to do is speak in front of the camera and mock and antagonize. It just piss them the fuck off. All the bad guys, just piss them the fuck off as much as possible. That way they just come at me like a fucking bull, like a bull in a blind rage. They're just metaphorically, like an analogy, coming at me like a bull in blind rage, and my friends are just waiting. However many of them come, they're just waiting, and they're dealing with it as it's coming. And I've been doing this for a while. This has been going on for weeks and months now. I've been egging them on and challenging them as much as I can, where, I've told you that I'm being followed, and I've told you about microphones and potential cameras possibly planted in my van or whatever. So every single day, literally every single day, when I don't have a camera up, I'm in my van, and at different points in the day when just something comes in mind, I just start talking out loud. I just start talking out loud, just in case, just in case there's microphones in here, whether through my phone or hidden in my van or whatever. I just speak out loud, acknowledging that people are listening, whether it's my friends listening or the bad guys, or both at the same time. Both sides are listening. I literally, like, as I'm sitting here, as you see me sitting here on camera in my van, just imagine this camera not being here, and I'm just sitting in my van, and I'm just talking for an hour or two, sometimes up to 2 hours. I'm just sitting, I'll talk for 2 hours straight, just sitting here out loud as if I'm having conversations with people, because I am aware that there are microphones and cameras around me, and that's who I'm talking to. And at the same time, I also have the mindset, okay, so there might be people that walk by, and they can hear somebody in the van talking, and they look in here, and there's just, there's one guy, there's me, but they see someone in here talking to himself. Well, I let people, okay, they just think, they think I'm a schizo, and they think I'm just talking to myself, and they're like, man, that guy's fucking nuts. But they don't understand I'm talking to people. If there's microphones, cameras in the area, and I'm aware that there's good people and bad side, the good side and bad side that's listening, and I'm aware that God's listening, I can literally freely talk out loud, knowing that people are listening, and knowing that I'm giving everybody updates every single day, every single day for these past months, especially this past month, mostly this past month and these past weeks, where I just sit in my van talking, knowing that there are people listening. I don't know who, and I don't know how many people. I don't know who they work for. I don't know their names or faces, but I am aware that there are people listening. They have revealed themselves already in the past to where it's undeniable. The things that happened between June 14th and the end of June, in a 2-week time span, there was so much that happened during that time where the game was essentially revealed in the sense that there are microphones and bugs. There still probably are, but when I was living at Jerry and Cindy's house, I tuned in and figured out that there were microphones and bugs, inside my bedroom. There were microphones in my bedroom, and the things that I was saying, there were people that could hear me, and things, everything around me outside, beyond me, things, my environment was changing and altering around me. People were treating me different. People were saying things that, their behavior was changing depending on what I had going on in the house. When things were just chaotic in the house, when I interacted with people out around town in Redmond, people were always being really, kind of evasive of me, kind of trying to stay away from me, as if these people were aware of the things that were happening inside the Durgan household. And then other times when things were calm, everything's all calm in the Durgan household, people are a lot more friendly towards me and more receptive, more willing to just kind of acknowledge me and stuff. And every time I went one way or the other, at my environment, people were treating me differently based on the shit that was going on inside the household. After June 14th, when I caught Jerry Durgan with what he trying to do, trying to entrap me and having my dog drugged and snatched out of the house, that night I caught on to the whole microphone thing. There were people listening that night. When my dog disappeared and Jerry and Cindy were hiding in their bedroom with the door closed, I literally started shouting. I was shouting down the hallway for like 2 hours, just yelling for my dog back, because I wasn't going to go pound on their door and create a serious issue. But my dog disappeared. Their plan was to have me pound on the door and demand to know where Malaki was. They wanted me to pound on the door and demand to know where Malaki was, and then get into a giant argument with my dad. And he was going to gaslight the shit out of me and try and provoke me to hit him or something. But it didn't work out the way that he wanted. And so rather than going and pounding on the door and creating a big issue with Jerry on June 14th, I went into my room, because God reached me that night and told me not to go pound on their door. And he told me to go sit on my bed in my bedroom, think about what's going on. Your dog's gone. He's nowhere in the house. I went and looked all over for him. He was just downstairs before I went upstairs into my bedroom, but now he's gone, and I know for a fact Jerry and Cindy are hiding in the bedroom, and he was gone. So God told me not to do anything. He told me, go in your room, sit and think about it. And then the next thing I know, for the next 2 or 3 hours, I was shouting down the hallway. I was shouting as loud as I could down the hallway, demanding for my dog back. I had my bedroom window wide open, so my neighbors and anybody in the general area could have literally heard every single word I was saying. I was just shouting as loud as I could, demanding my dog back. And then at some point, I shifted gears, and I made an offer. I said, well, whoever took my dog out of the house, I said, if there is somebody listening, if there's microphones in my room, I'm making an offer. If there's just a big misunderstanding and you guys have perceived me as like being a crazy person or something, and now you guys realize that I've just been playing you, and I've been aware of a whole bunch of stuff, and now I'm essentially calling you guys out, and anybody that has essentially been, you've been misled, you've been lied to, and now you realize that I am aware of all this stuff. And now that I've caught Jerry, I made that offer. It's like, if whoever took my dog, if you want to ever have any chance of being forgiven, if you don't want to face the same consequences and karma that Jerry Durgan is going to get for seeing this act carried out, where he literally trying to entrap me, if you don't want to receive what he's going to get, what you need, whoever took my dog, you better give me my dog back. Because I told him, I was yelling down the hallway. I was like, I know my dog's gone, and I'm refusing to come knock on your door, and I'm willing to just sit here in my room until sunrise. I will stay up all night long and wait until sunrise. And if my dog is not back, then there's going to be a very serious problem whenever it is that Jerry and Cindy decide to open their bedroom door and I confront them. Because if Malaki's missing by sunrise, then that's going to be a whole different situation than if Malaki reappears right now. So I was just shouting, I was just yelling this out loud, right? Just in case somebody was listening, right? So I'm yelling for my dog back, and just making these threats like, you guys better give me my dog back, because I'm just going to sit here and wait. And if he's still missing by sunrise, some of you guys are going to have somebody's going to have some serious explaining to do. And I'm already aware of this, this bad energy that you guys, there's something out here trying to fuck with me, and I'm aware. And right now, I've caught Jerry, and I'm trying to find out who else is part of it. Essentially, and then after I made that offer, as far as offering forgiveness for whoever took my dog, and it might have been a big misunderstanding, it was like within 15, 20 minutes, I decided, for whatever reason, to go downstairs, and there was Malaki. He was in the back patio. Somebody had opened our back patio gate, and just dumped him in the back patio area, and Malaki was super disoriented. He was running in circles in the patio, super confused, like as if he didn't know what was going on. He had no idea what was going on. It was completely dark back there, with exception to a few little night lights. And then I opened the door and said his name, and he looked at me, as if in like a huge relief, like, you know, he was looking for me. He didn't know what was going on because he was drugged out of his mind. But as soon as he saw me, he like, as soon as I opened the door and said his name, he saw me. It was like a big, like, you just see the relief on his face, and he just ran straight inside the house. And before he, you know, my bedroom's upstairs, but he ran straight into the house, and then he collapsed at the foot of the stairs, and just like, he collapsed at the stairs and laid down, and it was like he fell asleep. And at that moment, my intuition just pounding on me. I just, as soon as he ran in and laid down, I went and looked at him, and I could just look at the expression on his face, look at his eyeballs, you know, his pupils. He was out of it. He was sedated. He was, whatever was given to him, he was completely out of it. And from that point, I carried him up into my bedroom, and I think I put him on my bed, or I put him on his bed, but I gave him a lot of comfort, and just to comfort him and calm him down, and just telling him that he's safe, and that I know what's going on, and I know that he's drugged. Just you know, speaking out loud, letting him know that. Told him that whatever is in his system, I just like, you sleep and relax and just don't worry about it. I'm watching over you, and that's pretty much what he did. He slept. He was out like a rock. Like I was checking on him the whole time. He's breathing, and he had a heart rate the whole night. But he was out of it. He was not even moving at all. He wouldn't acknowledge me. He wouldn't lift his head up. At most, he would just open his eyes, maybe look at me a little bit, and then his eyes would shut. And then the next morning, after all, you know, once I got my dog back and got him back in my room, I went back up into my room, and I just started shouting out loud. I just started shouting. And then at some point, I was so pissed off about what's going on, and the fact that I had been shouting so loud that not once, Jerry and Cindy never opened their bedroom door to confront me and ask me if I'm okay, or even acknowledge any of the things that I was shouting. They literally stayed in their bedroom with the door closed the entire night while I was shouting as loud as I could. Calling them out, calling them out for what they just tried to do. I was just shouting out everything. And then eventually I ended up going to sleep that night. I could have left that night, but, you know, God told me, no, you stay in your room and stay put. You got your dog back. You've called them out. You caught their game. You know Jerry's involved 100%. And so then, so the next morning when I got up at sunrise, I took Malaki for a run out in the country and let him burn it all. He was still super groggy. He was still really out of it, but he was up and he was functioning, and I took him out to go on a run just so he can get his heart rate up and his blood moving, so whatever's in his system, it might flush it out at a quicker. So I took him on a few mile run. He just kind of like slowly jogged and was just kind of going to the bathroom, just kind of in a weird state, but he put in a few miles, and then by the end of it, he was kind of a little bit more energized, but he was still groggy, and then he ended up sleeping for the rest of until like early afternoon or so. I was not really planning on going into detail about June 14th, but, you know, considering I haven't really talked about it much, that needed to be talked about. And then, you know, again, I have confronted Jerry and Cindy about all of this, and they deny it all. You know, again, they hid in their room the entire time that night, and they have maintained the position as if they didn't hear me. They didn't hear a word that I said. They both claim that they didn't hear me shouting as loud as I could down the hallway. That's their position. They claim that they didn't hear me. And then they also claim that I'm delusional, and they just gaslighted me, telling me that Malaki was not drugged and that he did not disappear, and that my mom told me that your dog was probably laying somewhere in the house sleeping and you just didn't see him. That was what she told me as far as Malaki disappearing. So they gaslighted me, lied to me, and all this stuff. And then, you know, 2 weeks later, that's when, the following week, that's when I found the van. So all of that, June 14th, that happened on a Friday. And then a week and a half later, that Monday, so 2 Mondays from that later, that's when I bought this van. And then within the week, I was out. You know, by June 30th, I was in my van, and I've been living in my van full time. Just because of that shit. I've had to get away from them, and I don't know all the details, but I know enough of happened to my dog, and I know what they were trying to do. They were trying to set me up and trap me and get me locked away, either in prison or a mental health or a mental hospital. And so that's essentially why I left Central Oregon. As soon as I got my van, I spent my money that I'd earned through landscaping that late spring and early sun. The money that I had earned from March all the way until June, I used that money to buy my van and just dip out of Oregon. Just get out of Central Oregon. And then a whole bunch of shit went down to Depot Bay, and then eventually I left Oregon entirely and went to Idaho and then Wyoming. Okay. So this is a little bit of background information. I wasn't intending to talk about all this, but again, you heard my prayer earlier, and I've asked for guidance on the things that I need to talk about, and this is the direction we've gone, because these are things that need to be talked about. Okay, so this is stuff you need to know, because the things that have happened in the past 4 weeks from October 17th until November 14th, there's a lot that has happened in this time span, and now that I've covered all this other stuff, all of this stuff might really start making sense in the context of it's not just make-believe, it's not me being paranoid, it's not me being delusional. It's like, no, the things I'm about to describe, these are actually happening because the bad guys out there, including my own family, they're trying to fucking kill me or make me disappear or try and break my mind and my spirit to get me to commit suicide or try to starve me out, whatever they can do to make me disappear so they can proceed forward with whatever they're doing. And then they perceive that if they can defeat me, then they can entirely avoid any type of consequences for all the fucked up stuff they've done. Okay, I gotta stop, I'm out of time. Alright, so back when I arrived at Page, Arizona, I talked about driving from Moab and then eventually made it to Page, Arizona. By the time I made it to Page, it was about a week later from when it was about a span of 7 days, and from when I left Moab to make it to Page, that was a span of about 5 to 7 days. And then my first day in Page, like I said, I spent the first day just getting my bearings and just so I could learn the geographics of the town, where I could create a routine for myself over the span of the week to 2 weeks I was planning on being there. Okay, so again, I was trying to be there for a week to 2 weeks, and then that was the location where I was going to start panhandling. And it was going to be my first time ever panhandling. Had no idea what to expect. Had no idea what kind of money I would make, and essentially my first time panhandling, I went out to Safeway, which is a grocery store, and I have what do I do with it? I have a dry erase board. I have a dry erase board that I bought. That I had it in my bedroom. I had it in my bedroom back when I was living with my folks, and I was using it for just for keeping notes and stuff, just for different reasons. But I brought the dry erase board with me, knowing, when I went and got my stuff in Central Oregon about a month and a half to 2 months ago or whatever, when I went and picked up my bike in Central Oregon before I came down to Utah and Arizona, I wanted to go home and get my winter clothes, my bicycle, and some other stuff. And I also brought my dry erase board, so that if it ever came down to it and I found myself in a bad situation, meaning I don't have any friends or anybody supporting me in any different way or in any way, and I'm literally on my own, and if it comes down to me running out of money, well, I brought my big dry erase board so I can just write whatever message I need, and then at any point in time, if I need to change the message, I can just wipe it off and then use a dry erase marker and change the message as I want to. So rather than holding a cardboard sign, just kind of like a traditional panhandler does, somebody who's homeless and panhandles to, pay for whatever they buy, in order to pay for their food and stuff. Panhandlers traditionally use like a piece of cardboard, and they just go get a permanent marker and write their message, and that's what they use. Well, I could have done that, but I decided to do the dry erase board, and the first day that I did it, I just gave myself like, okay, I don't know what to expect, but I'm gonna just go with the goal of standing out there for an hour. I'm gonna stand there. I'm gonna go stand out on the corner outside, off of the property of Safeway. You know, right on the sidewalk, off the main road. So it'd be right at the entrance slash exit where vehicles are coming and going. So I'm not actually on Safeway's property. I'm on a public sidewalk, right? Just stand right on that corner. And I made this goal where I'm gonna sit there or stand there for an hour. And I set an hour-long timer on my phone, and I brought my dog, and I literally just stood there with my sign for an hour. I just stood there, or actually, I think I brought the first time I did it, I brought my lawn chair, so I sat there with my chair, or sat there with my sign as opposed to standing, and I just had Milwaukee sitting next to me, and we just hung out for an hour. And when I first did it, I kid you not, is almost within a few minutes of going out with my sign and sitting down and initiating the hour of panhandling, some guy comes out of nowhere, like within a minute or two, comes out of nowhere and walks over and hands me a bag of chips and some like Oreos, or cookies, some like cookies and Oreos or something. And then he walks away. Okay, cool. That's a good start. I got a little bit of food, right? That's a good start. And then a short time later, somebody else comes by and somebody handed me a 20. And then a few other people handed me, I don't know. I forget exactly how much I made. It was like, it might have been, I think it was around $70. I made around $70 in about an hour. Okay. So I made, in my first hour, I had a number of people walk up to me just giving me all kinds of money. I made like $70 in the first hour. And then, there wasn't really anything weird that happened that first time. It was a huge boost to my self-esteem, and it helped me feel better about my financial situation, in the context that by the time I had arrived to Page, my gas tank was, I needed to get fuel. My fuel tank was getting close to being empty, meaning I needed to spend, it was like $35 on fuel to fill my tank. $40 to fill my 11-gallon tank. Okay, so that money I got, more than half of it, or about half of it, went directly towards the fuel. And then then I used the remaining money to go get myself some groceries. Like I needed to get ice. I needed to get meat and cheese and all kinds of things just to restock a little bit of my food supplies, right? So nothing too weird happened then. That time it was just kind of a big boost to my self-esteem. It was like, that's pretty cool. $70 first time in just an hour. It might have not have been 70. It might have been just like, it was between 50 and 70. Okay. But that first time I did that was on Sunday. That was on a Sunday. So Sunday, I forget the date, but it was, Sunday, October 27th. So, and then I did it again on the 28th. I panhandled again on the 28th, and this time I went outside Walmart. Rather than going to the Safeway grocery store, I went to the Walmart and stood outside their entrance slash exit. So people are coming and going. There was only 2 exits to the main road, and I stood near the busiest exit. And that day I made, I think it was either between an hour and a half, I made like $110 around there. I made $110 in an hour and a half, and that I was super pumped, right? Super stoked. But this is kind of, mentioning that this is kind of where this whole thing starts getting really dark and twisted. Okay, so like I told you, I was only planning. I only did it for an hour and a half, and I set a timer, right? So I set a timer, and you got to remember when I told you that I'm always being followed around. How am I being followed, and to what extent, I don't know. But as far as I'm concerned, I have eyes on me 24/7, and whether it's good guys or bad guys, they know everything I'm doing all times. Okay. So where I'm going with this is the first, like if you're I'm just saying, pretend you're a bad guy and you're trying to figure out a way to get at me. Okay, you got to use your imagination on this in order for any of this to really make sense. You have to put yourself in the shoes of a bad guy with bad intent in order for this to really make sense. Because if I can think this up, I'm not a bad person. I don't go out there doing any of these stuff to people, but I'm saying if I can think this type of stuff up, then you got to understand people who are bad, who are evil people, they think of this stuff all the time, if not worse. They think of all kinds of worse scenarios than things that I can think of. But I'm saying with what I'm about to share with you, if I can put this together and I can assemble this stuff in my brain, there's a good chance that this stuff might actually be happening. Okay, so I'm saying you got to pretend if you're a bad guy and you're trying to figure out different ways that you can either poison me, drug me, poison me and make me just die from the poison, or drug me, which will essentially render me unconscious, knock me out, and then once I'm unconscious, they can have people show up, open the doors of my van, or if I'm out and about and if I go on a hike and I all of a sudden go unconscious, they have somebody come and pick me up and all of a sudden I disappear. But if they can drug me and render me unconscious inside my van and they have eyes on me and they can see the very moment that I go unconscious, they can have somebody come inside the van and fire up the van and just drive off and drive to a different location. I'm just in the back of my van unconscious, wouldn't even know. And then at some point when I do wake up, I wake up in a completely unfamiliar place, either restrained to a chair or a bed or something, or locked in a room. I don't know. But I'm saying if you're a bad guy and you're trying to figure out a way to poison me or drug me, or a way to poison or drug or murder my dog, okay, well, maybe panhandling is a way they can do it. Okay, maybe through panhandling, they can find an opportunity to either poison and murder my dog, or poison and murder me, or drug me and render me unconscious, and then they can kidnap me and take me alive and go take me off. Okay, so that's their goal. Okay, so if that's their goal, and you gotta pretend if you're one of the bad guys. How can you do this? Okay, well, right now, I'm just saying, okay, you're still pretending you're one of the bad guys and you're aware of everything about me. Okay, so you're aware that not only are you aware of my van and you're aware of my van situation, you're aware of the type of routine that I typically follow whenever I'm in town. People that have been following me around enough, they know that I usually stick to a general routine in the context of taking care of my dog and taking care of myself. Okay, so they know everything about me, more or less. Okay. And so now they know that I'm broke, and the fact that I've told you that I'm aware of the microphones and cameras and stuff that might be in the van, and I've told you that there have been many days where I just speak out loud in my van. I'm speaking out loud because I'm aware somebody's listening, and so as I'm speaking out loud, a lot of times I'm letting everybody know ahead of time where I'm going, when I'll be there, what I'll be doing when I'm there, and what my intentions are, how long I'll be doing. I've been communicating everything ahead of time, so once I do get to these places, I follow all of it to a T, more or less. I might make quick changes left and right here and there, but more or less I'm announcing what I'm doing ahead of time. So, if my friends are out there, I have friends and supporters, it's letting them know where I'm going to be so they can send people ahead of me. I'm in a van and I travel slow. They probably have vehicles that can move pretty quick, so they can arrive to my destination a couple of hours or a day ahead of me, and they can get to work on figuring out what's going on in the area, any type of bad people are in the area, any type of plotting and scheming, or any danger that might be waiting for me ahead of me. So that's the thing, right? So my friends are ahead of me. They're getting to work before I'm even there. They're communicating with people before I'm even there, and they're trying to establish protection around me while I'm there. But at the same time, the bad guys, if they're tuned into me too and they're hearing me announce all this, well, they can send people ahead of me too, and they can get to work on whatever they're trying to do. So the bad guys are trying to do shit to me, and the good guys are trying to identify them, and they're kind of, essentially they're fighting over each other, the bad guys are trying to make these things happen, and the good guys are trying to counter these things and intercept them to make it not happen. But at the same time, I'm heading there all the same. I'm going to be there all the same. And it's a matter of my friends and supporters having a better game than these guys, or these guys having a better game than me and them, to where they can carry out their objective, the things I'm telling you they're trying to accomplish. Poison or drugging me. Poison or drugging my dog. Okay. And knowing this, before my first time panhandling, I have already announced out to the world that by me being who I am, and me being in the financial situation that I am, where I don't have much money, I have established that it's very dangerous and it's a very big risk for me to go out and panhandle. I mean, just for me to do it, I'm exposing myself to unnecessary risks. If the bad guys are out there and they're watching me, I am literally allowing them to come forward and try something without any type of interference. They can literally walk up to me and try whatever it is that they want to try, and then they can walk off and do whatever. I'm literally standing there asking for the kindness of strangers to, help me out with a little bit of money so I can continue moving forward. Okay. So with that established, now let's slow down and rewind back to my first panhandling time. If they're trying to drug me or poison me, first they're going to want to know if I will eat any food that a stranger gives me. Okay? So like I said, when I first panhandled that first day, I told you within minutes, somebody came out of nowhere and handed me a bag of chips and some cookies and I think a pack of a single pack of Oreos, like a 2-pack where there's just 2 Oreos and then 2 baked cookies and then a small bag of chips. So they handed that to me. They wanted to see if I would eat it at some point. Okay, so I just kept the food. And then a little bit later, another guy showed up and he bought a dozen donuts from the Safeway bakery. So he had donuts and he had other food and stuff that he was carrying. He was carrying it all in a big handful, and he walked from the store and he literally walked right past me. And as he's walking past me, he's like, "Hey man, you want any donuts?" So he had like maple bars, round donuts with icing. I accepted those. I said sure. So I took a maple bar and I took another. He told me to take a second donut, and I ate both of those. I ate both of those right then and there, just in case whoever's watching, they can literally see me eating it. They're like, oh, okay, So the first 2 things, this first person that gave me food, and then this person who gave me food, if those were just tests. They wanted to see if I would eat food from somebody passing by, where it simply just appears like somebody's, out of the kindness of their heart, they're just giving me food because they see my sign and they want to help me out. That's how it looks at first appearance. And so if there's bad guys watching and they're trying to figure out if they can do it, well, first they got to send a couple people with some clean food that is not tainted with anything, and they see if I'll accept it, and then second, see if I'll eat it. Well, I ate the 2 donuts, so anybody's watching, they see me eat it, okay? So that gives them the green light. Okay, maybe we can actually get away with it. Brandon is naive and ignorant and believes that, okay, anybody who hands him food, if he's going to assume that it is clean food, and he'll either feed it to his dog or he'll eat it himself, and then at some point we will get him. Just got to be patient, and they're waiting for their opportunity, okay? So this stuff I'm kind of aware of, and I'm just listening to my intuition as this is all happening. So that first day, if all the money I made on the first day, I made, it was like between $50 and $70. And then I bought a whole bunch of food, and I ate some of the food. Okay, so the bad guys were watching, they hooked me up, and then now I'm establishing, well, that was cool. I'm going to do it again tomorrow. I'm going to panhandle again tomorrow and see what I can get. So the bad guys are, okay, he's going to be out there again tomorrow. Now we're going to try something. We're going to try something and see what happens. I am anticipating something happening. So again, as I'm planning to panhandle, anything can happen. I've already established this, and I've just asked for Heavenly Father and my guardians to protect me while I'm doing it. So that second day, it was October the 28th, I went outside of Walmart and I panhandled for about an hour and a half. In that time span, I made over $100. So between the previous day and the next day, I made a total of $178 in a span of about 2 to 2.5 hours of just standing out there with my sign. The second time, that second day that I did it, because I had spoke out loud and I had said, I'm only going to be standing out here for this amount of time, and whatever amount of money I have, by the time my alarm rings, I'm going to just walk. I'm just going to call it. I'm not going to stand out here for another hour or 2 hours and appear to be greedy and just try to make as much money as possible and just pretty much loiter and hang out in a single spot for 3 or 4 hours. I'm not going to do that. I'm just whatever I can make in an hour and a half. That's what I'm going to get. And then once the bell rings, I'm going to go get in my van and leave. That's how I was operating. Okay. So that second day, right near the very end, I'm standing out there with my dog, and then I'm also talking out loud because if anybody's listening or got eyes on me, I'm announcing out loud that, okay, I'm only going to be here for 10 more minutes, or I'm on the 5-minute mark, I'm about to pack it up. So anybody listening, they know it. Well, right near the end, some guy drove up in a van, and he's like, hey, this is the sign. This isn't exactly what it wrote, but this is more or less what it is. It just said veteran and service dog, unable to work, PTSD, broke, nobody knows where anything helps, God bless. It was similar to that, but it was a little bit different. And so that's the sign I was holding for those 2 days. And right near the end of that second day, some guy in a van pulls up. He's like, hey man, I'm in the Coast Guard. And, so he tells me he's in the Coast Guard. I don't know if he said he was a veteran or if he was active duty. But I was like, cool, man. And he just asked me, he asked me which branch or, who'd you serve. And all I said was Navy, because I got my stickers. I didn't actually serve in the Navy. I'm not trying to be an imposter or anything. But I have my reasons for, again, the Navy is just a shield. Because, if you don't know who I am, my clock's almost up. Yeah, no, the thing is with the stickers, I've already went over this. It's like, it has nothing to do with being trying to be an imposter or claim something that isn't true. As far as I'm concerned, I've had the Navy, the Navy has had my back while I've been out here. I don't know if that's true, but the individual who gave me the Navy sticker, literally, he's retired now, but I've said I don't know if he was with Naval Intelligence, but he worked with communications and electronics on aircraft carriers. He's an old man now, and whether it's his son or his friend, he also worked on aircraft carriers with the Navy, and was an expert of hacking electronic devices. So these people, who I met in the past, they gave me the sticker, and then everything that happened near the end of June and April, I have been operating from this perspective that I have had the Navy and other branches that they've been watching my back, essentially watching out for me because they know what I'm up against, and they know the threat that I'm up against. And as far as my perception is, I've had a whole bunch of military. We're all fighting the same issue. I'm pointing out the devil and the dark side and all this stuff, and it's a spiritual battle of good versus evil. Well, I've been operating from this perception of I'm not saying all military members, but I might have the attention of people, whether veterans or active military, whether veteran law enforcement or active law enforcement. You might have a bunch of good officers, whether male or female, who are aware of the situation and they know what I'm up against. They're aware of the dark side. And from my perspective, is based off my experiences, and all the gunshots and everything I've heard over the past months, so those different nights were just fucking automatic rifles and semi-automatic rifles, ATVs, helicopters, drones, stuff flying around me. I've had the perception that military has my back, and me being me, I'm essentially the bait and the cheese. I'm pulling in the bad guys. All I'm doing is pulling in the bad guys. All I'm doing is taunting them, mocking them, trying to expose them, get them to come out of their little rat's nest and snake pits, wherever they're at, to fucking come try to get me. And then I'm like, okay, military boys, military gals, all of you guys with military experience and law enforcement experience, I'm baiting them in, and now it's your guys' job to, anybody, this is your guys' time to see if you can defeat them. Before I can, say I die, and then, I say things might happen. Well, right now, yeah, things might happen in the sense where God and the heavenly host, they all come down and decimate the earth, and, like as the Bible says, in biblical proportions, just catastrophe everywhere. But right now, the game is seeing if humanity can wake up before this cataclysm happens. Can humanity wake up enough where members of law enforcement, military, everybody wakes up before it's too late, before everybody gets thrown into the pit after shit just goes south and sideways? Let's see if I can communicate with everybody and wake people up. and then everybody can see that this is a spiritual battle of good versus evil, and then give everybody the opportunity of which side they want to fight on. And then once everybody makes that choice, then this is a real deal. We got real fighting, real thing, and I'm in the middle just speaking, letting everybody know this is what's going on. If you're on this side, there's nothing to be afraid of. If you're on this side, you better fucking try and get me, because I'm just going to keep running my mouth, saving people, waking people up, getting them on my side, and then they're going to turn around and start firing back. And so my Navy stickers, me claiming to be a veteran, all this stuff, it entirely has to do with my specific path, and I am operating from a position where I perceive I'm not saying everybody, but I have some military support and support from law enforcement. They're watching my back, but it also might not be. I don't know the answer. I don't have the answers. I don't know who, and I don't know how many, or what. But as far as I'm concerned, it's just all I'm doing is pulling in the bad guys, baiting them, and just mocking them and making them mad, and then I'm relying on Heavenly Father, my guardian angels, and anybody down here on earth in this realm who is on my side. I'm relying on all of them to protect me while I'm doing this. Like, I'm the bait, I'm the cheese, and I'm just baiting in all these rats and snakes and stuff to try and get me, and it's their job to intercept and deal with them. That's how I'm operating, okay? So, with that said, when I was panhandling out at Walmart that second day, this is the sign I was using, right? And then at the very end, and I'll let you read it one more time, and I'm going to put it down. And then at the very end, where I was announcing that I only have 5 or 10 minutes left, right? So I'm announcing I'm about to go pack it up. And if you're a bad guy, right, and you're a bad guy and you're trying to figure out the time and opportunity to try and do something to me, like poison or drug, or something involving poison or drugs, well, the best time to do it is probably right at the end, okay? So after making all this money, right at the end, some guy in a van pulls in, and he says he's part of the Coast Guard, and he gets in this conversation with me, and he starts telling me, asking me about what my plans are and stuff, and I'm like, well, I essentially just told him I'm going to be wintering in Arizona, and then he's like, oh, you should go check out this place, and he gave me a location, and if you're trying to bait somebody to a location that makes it even easier for the bad guys to get to me, he told me to go check out this place in Arizona, and then right before he left, he handed me $25, and then he left. I was like, oh, that's cool. That's cool. And at first I thought that was, something good. Initially I didn't really have any issues or think anything weird about the interaction. It was just, just a guy from the Coast Guard. I thought in my head, okay, maybe he knows who I am. Maybe he's actually a friend. It's just somebody hooking me up with $25. That's what I thought initially, okay? And then he leaves, and then like a couple minutes later, some guy is walking down the sidewalk. Some older guy, he's probably in his mid-50s or something. I'm not saying he's old, I'm just saying he's older. He's older than me, so he's in his mid-50s. He's got one earring. I can't remember which ear it is on, but it's like a feather. A Native American feather is the earring. And if you know anything about the natives and the feather tattoos, the feather tattoos have significance. A lot of times it involves murder, killing somebody. As far as earning your feathers, it involves killing people. The more feathers you have, the more, that's kind of like your track record. Well, this guy is carrying this guy that approached me was coming down the sidewalk. I'd seen him come into the Walmart parking lot. He had made eye contact with me as he was pulling into Walmart, and then he kind of disappeared for a while. And then eventually he came out of nowhere, and I assumed he went into Walmart and went shopping. And then at some point, then the guy in the van showed up, and I was distracted with that. And by the time the guy in the van left, I noticed this other guy. He was walking down the sidewalk towards me, and he was carrying a bag, a Walmart grocery bag, and there was something in it. And then this guy he walks all the way up to me and starts talking to me, and he's a veteran. So him and I thought it was I thought it was a positive conversation. I thought he was a friend. I mean, as far as how he was speaking, it seemed like he was a friend. And so he identified himself as a veteran and told me that he fought in the Gulf War with the Airborne. I think he said it was the Airborne. I think he said the 82nd Airborne. But he fought in the Gulf War, and I think he said he had like 15 years of military experience and all this stuff. And then at some point after, he told me a little bit about his background, he didn't really ask me much about myself. I can't remember what he asked me, and I can't remember what all I told him, but I'm just going off the things that he told me. He told me all that, and then well, yes, I told him I used the Navy. Again, I'm just using that as a shield because, again, if he doesn't know me, I don't have the time or energy to just start telling him my life story. There's nothing I can tell him in 15, 20 minutes or half an hour that's going to explain my situation. So just keeping it simple. If he wants to know what the veteran means, well, yeah, I could tell you about my story as far as veteran. Being a veteran, I could tell you all about, my entire life and all that, and that will take you hours, but you're not going to stand here that long. So I'm just essentially going with the veteran, and I'm going, I say Navy because Rabbit gave me the Navy sticker and told me to put it on my vehicle. So I have gone with the understanding, with the perception that the Navy was watching my back, and I had to go ahead to just use the Navy as a shield. It's just a shield. It doesn't mean I served in the Navy. It doesn't mean I take orders from the Navy. None of that. It's just a shield where, any random person walking past my van or driving past my van, anybody that might be up to mischief or something, and they don't necessarily know me, they might see the stickers and they're just like, okay, well, I'm going to leave that person alone because, he's not, anybody that has military stickers, you don't usually want to fuck with them because they're probably not going to be someone to fuck with. You don't know where they've been or what they've done. So it's just a shield to keep bad people away from me, but it has nothing to do with trying to steal anything or claim to be something that I'm not. It's just to keep bad people away from fucking with me. And so that's all me saying. Sometimes when I say things, it has nothing to do with trying to lie or being deceptive. It's that I don't know who I'm talking to. I don't know who I'm interacting with. I don't know if they're lying to me and playing me or if they're just a neutral person or whatever. So I'm not going to give them anything, and I'm just going to say Navy, and if they want to pry into my business, I'm already aware that they're not going to stand here long enough to hear my story, so I'll just say it, and then eventually they leave. They'll just go away at some point. But if you're here with bad intentions, well, eventually you're going to let it know. Well, that guy, I told him Navy, and I told him just a little bit of stuff, like, I can't remember, I told him Navy, and I told him that, I was like, I work shoreside. I work shoreside. Everything that I've been doing has been inland. I haven't gone anywhere. I've said everything I've been doing has been in the country. And he didn't ask me anything beyond that. But as the conversation progressed, let me see how much time I got left. 9 minutes. As the conversation progressed, this guy started telling me that I needed to stop in Flagstaff, and told me there's this guy that I needed to meet up with, somebody that had helped him, and when the guy I was talking to told me that he had gone through PTSD and had gone through a really tough time and stuff, and he met a veteran guy in Flagstaff that really helped him, okay? And so he gave me this guy's phone number and told me to go find him in Flagstaff. Okay, I said I would, but I had to think about, I needed to separate from this guy and think on all of it, but I said I would. And then right before our conversation ended, this guy handed me $50, and I told you he was carrying a Walmart sack. Well, he handed me a sack, a Walmart sack, and inside of it was a giant bag of dog food, or dog treats. It was it's called pepperoni sticks, so it was like a pepperoni stick for dogs. So this giant bag of pepperoni sticks for dogs. So he handed me $50 and a sack of food, like snacks from Milwaukee. And then we ended up parting ways. And then right before we parted ways, hold on. Right before we parted ways, he walked back to his truck and grabbed something, and he grabbed this thing, born again. He started asking me if I believed in Jesus, and I told him I did, And then so he handed me this born again thing. And I eventually read it, but it's essentially, how can a man be born again? So he handed me this thing about Jesus, and so I assume, well, this guy is not, he's a good person, he's trying to help me out, he hooked me up with some snacks with Milwaukee, and then he's also acknowledging Jesus, so I assume he's a follower of Jesus Christ, right? So that, I just have to take this really good impression from him. I'm just like pretty happy that, okay, he seemed like a pretty good guy, and we shook hands, and he left, and then that was it, and then by the end of that day, I had between the previous day and that day, I had $178 in my pocket, and then I also had this big bag of dog snacks, okay? So from that point forward, with that $178, I stopped panhandling for the next week. I established that was enough. That was enough money to sustain my expenses for the next 7 days. I can go take care of all of my needs for the next week with what I just earned in 2 hours. Okay, so that I didn't, from that point forward, I did not panhandle again until the following Sunday, Monday. So I went, I panhandled Sunday, Monday, and then I went Tuesday through Saturday not panhandling, and I just went about my day. Okay. But the weird thing about where I'm going with this, as far as mentioning that last guy and the pepperoni sticks that he gave me, well, I started giving Malaki those sticks. When I first got him, I just opened the bag and gave Malaki a pepperoni stick, and he just ate it and gobbled it all up. Okay, no issues, nothing really, any problems. And then over the next couple of days, I'd give him one or two pepperoni sticks. I'd give him after his first morning run, at some point in the morning, I gave him a pepperoni stick just so he burned the calories. Well, you can have a treat just as a snack, and then I'd give him maybe another one that evening. Okay, so I did this for the first few days of just giving him these snacks. Well, around like the third or fourth day, I was really starting to notice that Malaki was starting to cough a lot more. He was starting to cough and gag, like he was acting like his stomach was having really bad indigestion. Something. It looked like he was getting sick, or he was like the more I was feeding him these snacks, these symptoms were becoming more and more apparent, to where he was doing it all the time throughout the day, where he's just coughing and gagging like he's trying to, like something stuck in his system. He's like, and just like, and then just whatever. He was making all this weird stuff, and then I was picking up on this, and then at some point, it was like by Thursday or something, like around Thursday, this intuition came into my brain, and all of a sudden I'm like, holy shit, did that guy just try poisoning my dog? This guy who pretended to be a friend of mine, try to be a friendly, or try to appear to be a kind person. What if that was all just a lie? What if all that was just a smokescreen, just to, like I said, if you're a bad guy and you're trying to figure out a way to get to me, what better way to get to somebody than blindly earning their trust? If somebody's asking for money, like somebody panhandling, and you walk up to them and hand them $50 and a bag of food, and you have a friendly conversation with them, you would psychologically give that person the impression that you actually care, and they will accept the money, and they will accept the food and perceive you as a good person. So therefore, you will open that bag, and if that food is drugged or poisoned, it has something in it that will something that will kill my dog or make him extremely sick or something, especially if he eats the whole bag. What better way to deliver the poison than by that strategy? And that's apparently what went down. Malaki started getting sick. Eventually, I caught on to it, and I was like, nope, we got to throw this bag away. So I was like, because that was the only outlier. That was the only out of Malaki's entire diet, as far as the food that he eats all day. That food, the pepperoni sticks, was the only thing that was different that he was eating than any other day of the week. And so it was like all of a sudden this intuition's hitting my brain. It's like there might be something in the pepperoni sticks. That guy might not have gone into Walmart and bought that. He might have, that bag might have been some fake bag or something they put some drugged, they made their own pepperoni sticks, and then inside the pepperoni stick is a variety of some kind of poison or drug or something. And then, they made all the pepperoni sticks, and then they made their own bag and sealed the bag, and it looks like a professional bag. It looks just like a bag you'd buy off the store, but they did stuff to it, and then they sealed it off. I don't know. I'm not saying that's what happened, but it might have. And they were trying to get my dog, right? So when I cut Malaki off from that, once I made these connections, I went and found the nearest garbage can, and I just threw the entire bag away. And that was that. Okay, with that. Hold on, I need to check the time. Yeah. I'm gonna take a break real quick. I'm getting really hot, and I need to kind of relocate and do some stuff.